Folks, I just want to talk to you one-on-one about what happened on 9/11. Now, I'm just a regular guy out here with a YouTube channel, so I don't have any significant story to tell. But I believe that it's important, really important, that we preserve our history and culture as Americans, and 9/11 is definitely an argument for that. If there's any special circumstance in which it was vitally important to preserve our way of life, 9/11 was it. And I was going to post something about this yesterday, but because I do the overnights on the weekend, I have to sleep during the day. But I think it was more appropriate to do a video about 9/11 tonight on 9/12. By the way, it's Sunday night. Welcome back to the channel. This is the Cultural Confederacy. I'm enjoying my corncob pipe, smoking some whiskey tobacco, drinking some coffee. That's what I do on Sunday nights, watch my detective shows like Columbo and Monk. But I wanted to talk about 9/11 because it is definitely an argument for preserving our way of life as Americans. And if you're new to the series, welcome to this thing we call the Cultural Confederacy. What we do on this channel is talk about preserving our history and culture as Americans, celebrate great music, great art, bring to light music by lesser-known composers, and I feel that's very important. The exchange of ideas, the freedoms that we have in this country, freedom of expression, the freedom to market whatever piece of music that we create or piece of art that we have out there. That can happen in other countries that have a constitution like ours, but not like the United States. The United States is unique. It's not that we think we're better than everybody else, but we are the best thing going on this planet right now. Why does everybody want to come here? Because they understand the freedoms that we respect and that we protect in this country. And last night, when I had some downtime at work, I was listening to the Cleveland Air Control audio tapes that they had released. And on this particular tape, they had communication with Flight 93. So this is Cleveland Air Control on 9/11. Now, what happened first was that when one of the terrorists took over the cockpit on Flight 93, he meant to send a message on the intercom to the crew, the passengers, telling them that there was a bomb on board. Everybody sit down, we're heading back to the airport. But instead, he hit the wrong button, and this message went out over the air. So Cleveland Air Control caught it. And then Cleveland Air Control tried to confirm this with other flights that were in the air at the time. And they all said, yes, we heard the same message. And then a little while later, after they tried to confirm with Flight 93 if that was the correct message, a little while later on the tape, you hear this distress call coming from Flight 93. Mayday, mayday, we're all going to die here. And they believe that that came from one of the pilots before the terrorists took over. And I also had a chance this morning to read through the transcript of the CVR, the Cockpit Voice Recorder Black Box. Now, they haven't released all of that, of course, to be sensitive to the families of the victims. But I can tell you from reading the transcripts that the Americans who were on that flight, Flight 93, fought to the bitter end to regain control of that flight. And at the very end, they had made it into the cockpit. They had actually used a food cart as a battering ram to get into the cockpit, to open that cockpit door, break it open, and regain control of the plane. And what that goes to show you, I mean, they were doing this as the plane was taking a nosedive. What that goes to show you is the resilience of the American spirit, that we will fight to the death to protect life, liberty, our way of life in this country. And folks, that's vitally important, that we protect the rights that we are given by God, that we're protected under the Kentucky, I'm trying to get the words out here, protected by the Constitution. Did I say that right? It doesn't matter whether the words come out right or not tonight. I always have that trouble on these videos, and I love that about this channel. I can just come here and be honest with you. And I think that we have gotten to a point in this country where we're so divided by politics that we've forgotten that we're Americans, that we're human beings. We can have disagreements. We can come here on YouTube and make mistakes on a video. Do a video any way we want. But at the end of the day, we're all Americans, and we need to unite to protect what we have in this country, the greatest country on the planet. And I don't care if you're white, black, Hispanic, Asian. I don't care if you're polka dot, purple, green, doesn't matter to me. I don't care if you're a chameleon, if you call yourself transgender, it doesn't matter to me. At the end of the day, we're all Americans. And I can't imagine what those people were going through on that flight, seeing this horror unfold, being attacked by these terrorists, because there were people that were violently attacked and killed right before Flight 93 went down on that flight. But we've got to preserve our way of life as Americans in this country. It's important. And this goes right in line with taking down statues or flags or anything you find offensive. You know, I was debating with people, because we're having this ongoing discussion, days after they took down this Robert E. Lee statue. You would imagine that when this Robert E. Lee statue was taken down in Richmond, Virginia, that would be the end of the conversation. That's not the case, I can tell you that. People are still divided over this. And somebody brought up this point where they said, well, I used to have the same view that you did. But when somebody brought up the Hitler analogy, it changed my mind. And then I wrote back and I said, well, if you're saying that we shouldn't have statues up, then maybe we should take down any symbol resembling this out of the other. Maybe we should get rid of libraries. Maybe we should get rid of films, books. Because the fact that they mention these people in history, like, let's say, Hitler or Robert E. Lee, who, by the way, are not equated to each other in any way. Not in any way. In fact, Robert E. Lee was fighting for Virginia, his home. In those days, your backyard was your home. You weren't fighting in those days for the quote-unquote nation, preservation of the nation. You were fighting for your backyard. Because most people didn't travel very far from where they were born and raised. It was not uncommon for you to maybe travel less than 10 miles from where you were born back in the day. So I think it's really important, once again, that we preserve our history and culture as Americans. And 9/11 definitely makes a case for that. We will never forget. We can never forget what happened on that day. That was an attack on everything that makes us Americans. Our capitalist system, free expression, the freedom to travel, the freedom to travel without the fear of being attacked. So I just thought I'd come here tonight and have an honest one-on-one with you. Just tell you my thoughts on 9/11, where I was when it happened. And it's hard to believe that it's been 20 years, but it feels like it was yesterday. For those of us who lived through it, it feels like it was yesterday. I can't believe that 20 years has gone by. And what I'd like to know from you is, where were you when 9/11 happened? I mean, were you even born then? Because you have people who were maybe less than a year old when 9/11 happened. And, you know, you hear just the basic facts, but you don't go into the details of the stories on these flights. You know, the one flight that's forgotten about is Flight 77 that flew into the Pentagon. So you have 4 flights, these 2, I think it was Flight 11 and 175 that went into the Twin Towers. We know about Flight 93, but everybody forgets about 77, American Airlines 77. And apparently nobody was injured on that flight. But the pilots and all the passengers were told to get to the back of the plane. But the horror of that crash lies in how it hit the Pentagon. It basically spiraled into the Pentagon, from what I understand. And I believe it was 530 miles per hour. And there was 100 and 75 some odd people that were killed on and off the plane. So passengers on the plane, which I think there was a crew, passenger and crew with the terrorists, was about 58 people. And then the Pentagon, there was 100 or so people as that plane crashed through the Pentagon. But we tend to forget about Flight 77. But once again, those people who were on Flight 93 fought to the bitter end, to keep that flight in the air, showing the resilience of the American spirit. We fight to the death to preserve our way of life, to protect freedom. And doesn't everyone in this country want to be free? Don't you want to have the freedom to travel without fear of being attacked? Don't you want to have an exchange of ideas? You can't have that in any other country. You know, and in thinking about this with people I was talking with online, I finally said something to somebody, and because I got tired of it, I finally said this. I said, dude, you have no idea how good you have it in America. And I told him something. Because we were talking about the Statue of Robert Lee. He was saying, yeah, well, you need to have some empathy for, I couldn't believe he said this to me. You need to have some empathy for a black child who's to look up at a 60-foot statue of Robert E. Lee. And Rebecca, I said, well, how is that statue preventing you from going to college or getting groceries, traveling, driving a car? How is that preventing you from doing that? Dude, you have no idea how good you have it in this country. And I even thought, you're talking to me on your smartphone. How did you get that smartphone? You're able to buy a smartphone in the greatest country on the planet. You have the ability to go out and buy whatever smartphone you wanted. Unlike in Soviet Russia, where you were allocated 3 pairs of jeans a month, and everybody was standing around the block for that one sausage in the window. That's what life was like living in the Soviet Union, behind the Iron Curtain. I am so thankful that I live in the United States of America. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. Not because we're not because we're better than everybody else. And we shouldn't be thinking that. We should be humble. But the fact that we are the greatest planet on the nation because of the freedoms we have here. Let's protect it. Let's not forget what happened on 9/11. Let's not forget the people who died, the sacrifices they made. Because if those terrorists had had their way on Flight 93, that flight would have hit the White House. Just think about that. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please click that like button, subscribe. Hit me up on Instagram at #JasonComposes. Leave comments below. And I will catch you next time. You can also reach me at Twitter, Cultural Confederacy Twitter. So this is the Cultural Confederacy saying peace out. Stay safe, everybody. And God bless this great country.